Hey, what's up? I'm Amanda, and I'm really into theater, and if you are too, subscribe.
Yeah.
So, this is my first time seeing Hadestown in about 5 years, and this is only my second time seeing Hadestown. I saw Hadestown, like I said, about 5 years ago when the show first came out, and I absolutely loved it. It was such a great show, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I would consider Hadestown to be one of my favorite shows. It's like part of my top 10 favorite shows. Now, don't ask me what my top 10 favorite shows are because, like, off the top of my head, I don't know what they are, but it's definitely part of my top 10 favorite Broadway shows of all time. I absolutely love Hadestown. For those of you who don't know, Hadestown is sort of like a retelling of the story of Eurydice and Orpheus. So if you know anything about Greek mythology, you know the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. But for those of you who don't know, I won't spoil it because I actually want y'all to go see the show. And it's a pretty big spoiler, their story, like especially the ending of it. So no spoilers here. Let's try to keep it spoiler free in the comments if possible. But yeah, and what I like about Hadestown is that it kind of parallels the love story between Hades and Persephone. So Hades and Persephone in this story, they're a lot older. They've been in love for a lot longer than Orpheus and Eurydice. Their love is sort of like, it's blossoming, it's new, it's kind of naive a little bit. And it's I don't want to say childish, but it's a little immature compared to a more mature love that Hades and Persephone has. So you kind of see the parallel between these two couples and their love throughout the story. And it's such a great story. It's a tragic one, but one that I think it's worth checking out regardless of how the story unfolds. And that wasn't a spoiler because the show literally opens up by saying that it's a tragic love story. So don't get mad at me in the comments, okay? So right now, Jordan Fisher is currently playing Orpheus. I didn't see him as Orpheus. Instead, I saw Chibezwe Ioma as Orpheus, and I saw Belen Moyano as Eurydice. And they were really good. I think what's interesting is that Belen Moyano kind of has, her tone sounds a lot like Eva Noblezada, which is pretty cool. Like I'm always like shocked when I find out or like I hear people sing and it's like, oh shoot, you actually sound pretty similar to like the original. That's nuts. That's crazy actually. Chibezwe though is completely different as Orpheus as compared to the original actor that played Orpheus. Childish is not really the word I want to go for, but you can see how young Orpheus is through him. And I think obviously this due in part to the fact that the actor, to me, I think he's younger than Reeve Carney, but also the fact that he's so young, it also makes the way that Orpheus acts kind of a little bit, I don't want to say more believable, but like that's what I'm gonna go for now. What it is that I can believe that someone so young is naive in the way that they view the world. You haven't experienced anything yet, so of course this is how you're going to act. You know what I mean? As opposed to Reeve Carney's, it's like you've just held on to your childlike wonder a lot longer than expected. And I think that's just because of like, you know, my perceived how I perceive like, you know, how the actors look. One's not better than the other. It's just something that I noticed in my second viewing of Hadestown. Philip Boykin plays Hades currently, and I actually had the pleasure of seeing him in Once on This Island, which I absolutely adored. That's also another one of my favorite shows on Broadway. I love Once on This Island. But back to Hadestown. Philip Boykin's Hades feels a little bit more playful than Patrick Page's. He still has this like big and like uh, roughness to him, but he plays it a little bit. So I'll give you an example. Hades, his songs are very, very deep, very deep. And there's a choice that Philip makes. Like, I don't know if he does this like in every one of his performances, but in my performance, I noticed that for some of the songs, he tends to like go up a little bit. So I'm gonna do a really, really poor really, really poor example of this. But there's a song where he sings hey songbird, something like that. And then he kind of goes, hey da da. Like it's really bad. This is really bad. But the point is that instead of like staying in that really like deep octave, towards the end of the phrasing of the song, he'll kind of like turn it up a little bit, and or not even turn it up, but he'll like bring the octave up a little bit. But when I saw Patrick Page, like he would keep all of the songs like in that low register. So to me, I read that as, oh, you're being a little playful. Then again, he could be doing that because the songs are just really, really low, and you know, maybe he can't reach that note, so he's going up a little bit towards the end. But I read it as, ooh, this Hades is a little, you like to play games a little bit, you know, you like to have a little bit of fun. I like that. It's a different take. Again, I don't really know the intent behind why he does that, but I like it, and that's how I read it, and that's why I feel like Philip's Hades is a little bit more playful. On the flip side, I saw Annie DeFranco as Persephone, and fun fact for those of you who don't know, Hadestown was actually a concept album before becoming a fully fledged like Broadway musical, and she actually voiced Persephone on the concept album. So it was cool. Like I got to see the original actress playing Persephone, and then I got to see Annie DeFranco, who was on the concept album, and now she's playing Persephone on Broadway. So that's like a full circle moment for me, which I think is pretty cool. Now, compared to Hades, I feel like Annie DeFranco's Persephone was a lot like reserve's not the word I want to use, but she's not as playful as Amber Gray's Persephone. She was a little bit more coy. Let me say that. So while Hades was a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more playful, she's a little bit more guarded, a little bit more coy. They balance each other out in that way. You know, side note, I think that's one of the reasons why I love theater so much, and why, even though I'm not a huge fan of going back to seeing shows again, I recommend that people do it. I was going to say do it. I could recommend that people do that, because especially when there's a cast change or when there's a different set of people like taking over the roles, because you get to see the show again with fresh new eyes, with a fresh new take. And speaking of different actors taking on roles and whatnot, we need to talk about John Briones. I loved him as Hermes. Wow. Loved it. He's like the narrator of the entire show. So you need to be charismatic. You need to be able to pull people in. And I think he did that very, very well. Big fan of Miss Hermes. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Honestly, if I can play any character in Hadestown, it'd be Hermes. That's who I'd want to play. I love a good like narrated character. Love that. Something to note about Hadestown is that it is a sung through musical. So if you're not a fan of musicals that barely have any dialogue, Hadestown is not the musical for you. But I do think you should check it out anyway, because it's not hard to follow. One of my favorite things about Hadestown is the music. My go-to song from that show is All I've Ever Known, and it's sung by Eurydice. And I just love that song. Actually, it's a duet. Orpheus also sings in it too. But I just love that song, and I really think y'all should go check it out. I also really like We Raise Our Cups, and it's a song that's sung after the cast bows. I love that song. I try not to listen to it too much because I do tear up. I do. Got a little dab right here, because it just brings up like all these emotions in me, and it's such a beautiful song. Like, it's such a beautiful song. You should definitely listen to it. Honestly, you should just listen to the cast recording after watching this video. Go listen to the cast recording because the songs are so beautiful. I love all the songs. So the music is definitely one of my favorite things about Hadestown. I'm also a really big fan of the aesthetic of it all, due in part to the fact that it kind of reminds me of Great Comet. So like the reds and the golds and everything. I like the aesthetic of Hadestown because it reminds me of Great Comet. Great Comet, I was a Great Comet defender. I loved it. And, you know, Hadestown kind of reminds me of that. Not the story, but like I said, just the aesthetics. So I love how the set looks. I love the production of it all. I love the staging and the costuming and everything. Last but not least, I'm a huge fan of the story itself. Like I mentioned before, it's a tragic story, but one that, even though it's tragic, also has hope, you know? Hope that, you know, maybe one day it won't be tragic anymore. Again, that's not a spoiler. You're told that in the first song. Okay, don't get mad at me. I won't tell you how the story ends, and I won't tell you everything in the middle. Just know that it's a tragic story that is filled with hope, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. I think it's just a really well written story. The music is done very beautifully, and like visually, it's pleasing to the eye. Like, what else is there to say? Like, I think it's just a show that you're really gonna enjoy. The performances are great. I love the dynamics between each and every one of the characters. But yeah, I feel like Hadestown is just one of those shows that's like really easy to fall in love with. I don't feel like a lot of people don't like Hadestown, but again, if you're one of those people that don't like it, let me know down in the comments below. You know, matter of fact, in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on Hadestown. What did you like? What did you not like? Also, answer this question for me. If you could play any character on Broadway right now, what character would you want to play? Okay. And as always, thanks for watching.